What I'm afraid of is like the DSA members digging from their trench into the Democratic trench and then killing us all and like taking over.
How can you be scared of like a Maoist take over the party? The party will just wipe their ass with these people and throw them out. And they have done that to the extent that they're ineffective or they don't fall in line. It happened also in the House of Representatives with Jamal Bowman. And it happened like with all these candidates who are crazy, stupid, distracting. This shit occurs, Mouton. And there's no basis other than, well, it happened to Trump. It's not going to happen to the Democratic Party.
I feel like the DSA is an absolute existential threat to the Democratic Party, and I would like it to be over ASAP versus like continue with what I feel is to come. So yeah, I'm willing to lose one governor race and a few House seats this election in order for hopefully it to be completely stomped out. That's correct.
Like I said earlier, if it got to that point where I'm having to choose between socialists and fascists, I'm just getting the fuck out of the country. I would probably not vote in that election at all because it's so fucking cooked at that point, right?
Man, this is existential right now. Do not underestimate Trump.
Stop underestimating the fucking DSA, Pisco, please. They're just as bad as MAGA.
Miss Hong has to earn my vote, and I want to kill the DSA now versus the deal with
Based. Based. All right, people, I guess Mr. Mouton and Pisco here had a debate, an impromptu debate, and I figured we'd check it out since we've been keeping up with our old friend Pisco here. I don't know what the topic is of this debate, but apparently Mr. Mouton didn't know what the topic was of this debate either going into it. Pisco just hit him up and asked him to chat. So I'm curious to watch this and to see if it's cinema or not. I suspect the topic will probably be in relation to the DSA and the future of the Democratic Party and whatnot, which has been the hot button topic as of recently in this space. My last YouTube video was about this same topic where we watched that Live and Learn podcast. So now Pisco is talking to Mr. Mouton, and I am curious to watch and see how that went. I could be totally wrong, and then maybe I'll have to re-record this intro. That'd be annoying. So if you're seeing this, that's what the topic is probably about. But let's just jump right in and find out ourselves, shall we? Need I say more?
All right, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, I think that we're talking about this like DSA loop, right? The kick them out of the coalition, the line drawing and the tent stuff. And so I've been having a lot of like annoyance with how that conversation is going. It's kind of meta, honestly. And basically how people are basically advocating for things and saying things that sounds like they're trying to do something drastic, but at the end of the day, it seems kind of like mild in terms of the prescription.
Mm-hmm.
So kick them out of the party, excise them out of the party. But when we get to it, like there's not any meat and there's not any like teeth to whatever recommendation they have. So that's what's been
okay. So you just feel like people are like saying words and not actually getting out there and saying like what they would actually want and what that means.
I feel like I've been pretty explicit on this. Obviously, I have a lot of criticism for a lot of people in these conversations, but what I would advise personally with regard to what people should be doing is feed people like if Pisco really is a liberal like he claims, listen, and I'm open to being convinced otherwise. I was really in a shitty mood in my last video. I hadn't slept, so I called him a commie fuck and whatnot and a secret tanky about 100 times. If he's actually truly a liberal and he's just getting pulled in by this commies aren't a threat bullshit, then I'm open to being convinced otherwise. But my opinion on what people need to be doing, people like Pisco, Josiah, and really larger liberal media figures as well, like Brian Tyler Cohen or, Adam Mockler, Harry Sisson, etc. They should be doing what David Pakman was willing to do, which is to directly call these people out to their broadest audience on their like primary outlet, their primary show, whatever that may be. And if they're not willing to do that, and if they're rolling out the red carpet for these people, that's a problem. So that's my position on this. We'll see where this goes, though.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, and additionally, that like there's also this feeling that like there's more agreement than the nature of the discourse is letting on. In fact, like I often am looking for what the disagreement actually is, because when push comes to shove and we're like giving different possible scenarios, like would you vote for this person? Would you support this person? It sounds like there's more agreement on who the lesser of two evils is. And at the end of the day, like what are we disagreeing about? And so that's the kind of frustrating part. It like the discourse makes it seem like this is hugely antagonistic opposition.
Just so you're aware, Pisco's internet apparently was being laggy during this, so that there's nothing I can do about his video being out of sync. Just so you know.
Additional state of mind that I have, or that like there's this huge mismatch, and I'm just like failing to see it.
Okay. Well, I think that you're gonna find it with me, honestly.
Yeah, let's
talk about it. So go ahead, interview away.
Yeah, so like I saw your tweet at me, and you gave like a couple concrete, like
Yeah, I said don't campaign for them, don't
right?
donate to them, don't appease them in Congress, and primary them.
Yeah, and I'm just like, is this truly like?
I'm a very media focused person, so my main thing is that the media needs to be calling this out, because I think the media is what is ultimately outcome determinative when it comes to the voters, probably more than anything at this point. So I think that the liberals need to build up a stronger media apparatus, and a media apparatus that has teeth and is willing to bite back against its enemies. So I would absolutely add that to the list of the 4 things he listed were great. I agree with all of them, but I think the media component is very important as well. And maybe that gets kind of tucked into the don't campaign for them element of the 4 things he listed. But the media is very important to me.
An elaboration of your preferences. So say, for example, we have a qualifying member of this DSA set. Sometimes it's unclear who is a part of that set. It seems like among those politicians, it wouldn't include people like AOC. It might not include people like Mamdani. So query who those individuals are who are part of like the problematic set for whom this prescription applies. And I think that that's like worth going down. But would you want to pause there?
Yeah. So let me just kind of like frame it like this. Instead of saying like Big 10 or something like that specifically, I know we're talking about DSA. The way I kind of want to define it is like, I've learned a lot about World War I recently, so I'm going to use these terms. Like the theater, that's going to be like everybody possible there in the theater. And then in the trenches, I would say that there's like multiple trenches. This is what normally I think people would call tents. I would say there's the Republican trench, there's the Democratic trench, there's the Independent trench, and then currently there's like the DSA member type trench. There could technically be like the MAGA trench, but later on, I'll explain it now. The MAGA trench used to exist, but I feel like the MAGA people dug into the Republican trench, and now it's been completely taken over by MAGA. So now that is now just the MAGA trench. What I'm afraid of is like the DSA members digging from their trench into the Democratic trench and then killing us all and like taking over. And then we would just become one quote unquote big trench / big tent.
I see. So there's kind of like a Borg feeling to what's happening.
I kind of agree with that concern. I think the Democrats are a little bit less susceptible to being taken over by their populist wing than the Republicans were, simply by nature of the fact that the Democratic Party is a big tent in character just as much as it is, an ideology. And by that, I mean that the Republicans were all mostly, high school educated white men. That's by far their strongest constituency. Whereas the Democratic Party, their constituency is much more varied. And so I think by virtue of just being a more varied party with various different forms or types of voter bases within it, I think that the Democrats are naturally less susceptible to being taken over by some sort of populist wing where everyone is in agreement, which it hurts us in that it makes our messaging much harder and much more varied, and the infighting is nonstop. But it also helps in that it's harder for a wing group like the DSA to unilaterally just take over the party, especially as quickly as the Tea Party took over the Republican Party in record time. And they had also been building up that media infrastructure, with the radio talk shows and the Fox News and all these things for decades by the point that the Tea Party actually gained a strong foothold in the Republican Party. So I think the Democrats are probably a little bit less susceptible to that, but it is a long-term concern. My primary concern with DSA types is that they're just kneecapping Democrats nationally, because right-wing and centrist media can just point to the crazies from the DSA, like the co-chair who went on Fox News and talked about abolishing prisons, and point at them and say that this is the average Democrat politician or leader, or this is what the Democrats want, vote for Republicans. So, and we see time and time again that, you know, DSA candidates or far left candidates, they may be able to win in a primary and beat out the moderate Democrat, but then they almost always get clobbered by the Republican in the general, whereas the moderate would have stood a much stronger chance against the Republican. So I think that's right now the primary concern. I mean, it could accelerate to a point where they manage to take over the entire party, at which point I'd probably just leave the country. Because Jesus fucking Christ, we have the fascist party and the commie party. I'm out of here. But until then, I'll keep fighting to try and save the Democratic Party. What small amount I can actually contribute to that.
Is like these people are gonna take over. They're gonna try to like turn. I don't know if you've seen The Matrix. It's like Agent Smith turning all of the other agents into him. Kind of.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say turn.
You-
I would say like they would kill us and take our voices away into the fact of like we don't have a place here anymore, which was our original like quote unquote homeland / trench.
Yeah. So I can respond to that if you want. It sounds like that concern is one of like there's going to be a liberal takeover of the party, and we're going to turn to the left, turn to the right, and all of a sudden we're not going to have a party anymore or something like that.
Yeah,
That's a
I think this
concern,
is a
right?
lot of the time called like the dirty break or whatever.
I've never heard that term, but the dirty break. Okay. That is what like to the extent that that is a concern.
Mhm.
One aspect of the discourse, which I think often is like not catching, is like we all on Live and Learn agree that we think that that is far-fetched as
Okay.
a proposal. That's one of the reasons why I was like pushing Hutch on our episode of Live and Learn to be like, what Wick is saying here is crazy, strictly speaking, because I don't think that we share the fear that the Democratic Party, by which I mean like the major politicians, the Democratic candidates, the Democratic voters, are going to be turned into like this a liberal morass led by Hassan Piker or something. And I just don't know if the concern is that, which is to say that the Democratic Party will become illiberal, will become a Marxist-Leninist vanguard party. I just don't know why you have that fear.
So here's the reason that I have that fear is I feel like if we would have went back, what, at this time, like 12 years, people would have said the same thing about Donald Trump and MAGA. And now we have very much seen that like the party of the Republicans is now MAGA.
Again, I don't think that the DSA has the infrastructure. They're building it. It could become a significant concern in a decade or something, maybe. But my biggest fear right now is that long before that, they'll just fucking kill the Democrats' chances nationally in a ton of elections, and Republicans will essentially take over. And it kind of just enables the MAGA fascist takeover that's been happening already and makes it their jobs easier. So that's my concern. But I do take Mr. Mouton's point here, which is that things are very American politics is so completely fucking unpredictable. You can't even predict 2 years out where we're going to be. I can't even, with the midterms coming up, you can't even predict 4 months out where we're going to be. So I do take his point there that it is worth worrying about that this movement of illiberal communists on the far left fringes of the party is growing and picking up momentum and picking up seats. And being more competitive electorally, that is a major concern that's worth addressing and not just ignoring. Because you don't, again, I said this in the last video, you don't wait until your cancer is stage 4 before you start doing chemo, right? We don't want them to metastasize and become too big to kill. Whereas we'd rather just kill the baby in the crib, so to speak. Whoops.
There is no real space for middling Republicans to exist anymore. They are being primaried by crazy MAGA people. So this is why I have that fear right now. This, in my opinion, this already happened.
Because it's happened before. Yeah.
Because it just happened.
Mean, like, I think, yeah, Trump has been able to take hold of the Republican Party in kind of an unprecedented way, and in a way where he has like exerts maximal control. such that he's able, even now, even as unpopular as he is now, and honestly, there have been some numbers where he has, 80, 78% approval among Republicans. That's like really bad for
90%
him.
is
But
what I've
even
seen.
now,
Yeah, yeah,
even
yeah.
yeah. Oh, I've seen recently the polling getting lower, but yeah,
I think Trump's pretty close to his floor at this point. Sorry if I just peeked the mic. I think Trump is very close to his floor at this point. I don't think he can dip below 30% approval rating. Amongst Republicans, I don't know those numbers, but I know amongst the American people, it seems like his floor is about 30, 31% broadly. So that would include everyone, not just Republicans. But
usually it's
Possible
like
with Iran.
90, 91, 92. Yeah, but I think usually he commands, even in his weakened state, the ability to scuttle pretty much any Republican primary and just make it go in his favor. And so I understand that
Mhm.
it has happened in that this person has control, but there's two responses I have. The first is, I don't think the Republican Party has like fundamentally ideologically, policy wise, except for its adherence to authoritarianism and Trumpism, changed like where it's going. So I'll give you some example: tax cuts, wars in the Middle East, deregulation. These are all still things that like the Republican Party approves of and they continue to do, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, there's this added factor of the authoritarianism of Trump. Maybe that's what you're isolating for.
I don't agree with Pisco here. I understand why he's saying that because there are core elements of them that are the same. Like he said, the tax cuts and the wars in the Middle East and whatnot, but there are elements of them that are very, very different as well, such as their lack of adherence to the Constitution. The Republicans used to call themselves the defenders of the Constitution, and now Trump wipes his ass with it 7 days a week. So, I mean, and then obviously their messaging is completely different. Their openness to authoritarianism, which Pisco himself brought up, is very different. So, I mean, like the policies aren't that different, true, but they're also not policy focused. They're more focused on, the assertion of power and rigging the game in their favor. If they're if like say JD Vance wins in 2028, I think the policy agenda will ramp up in that time period. Whereas Trump, I don't think Trump is ideologically motivated. I think if he was more ideologically motivated, we would see more policy shifting from the Republican Party. But because it's a cult to Trump, and Trump is just like I don't think he's ideologically motivated. I don't think he's like an ideological fascist or whatever. I think he's just a narcissist who likes power and likes telling people what to do and likes having control. So I think he's more just focused on the centralization of power. But if you get someone like JD Vance, who is very ideologically motivated, who's like he calls himself post-liberal. In reality, it's or post-enlightenment is what he calls himself. In reality, it's pre-enlightenment, his ideology, because he just wants to go back to the Dark Ages. That would be where you would really start to see the policy shifting happen from the MAGA movement.
And I agree, it did happen under Trump. I just don't have an inclination that it's likely to happen with the Democrats. So I will grant you that it has happened. Maybe that informs your fear, but why is it rational to have that fear as the Democrats? That's what I don't understand. Because I think there are like key differences in how the Democrats operate and uniqueness of Trump that don't like sort of carry forward to the Democratic Party.
Sure. So the reason that I have this fear, and we can talk a little bit about this, is I feel like influencers are out there saying absolutely heinous shit about the Democratic Party, and they're kind of like pushing the DSA types to do some sort of like takeover of the Democratic Party. An example of this is going to be Kyle Kulinski. Kyle Kulinski has been out there recently calling moderate Dems like MAGA lights. He has so many crazy tweets. I'm sure that you've seen them. If you'd like, I can start reading some off. But this is a big factor.
I grant that he says these terms.
Yeah, and I think it's disgusting. And
Kyle Kulinski also literally has just been posting straight up Nazi propaganda. So, I mean, he's not exactly. I mean, like, he's a fucking nutcase now. But the thing is, people will still defend him and try and argue that he's like the reasonable leftist in the room compared to the Hassan Piker types or the Crystal Balls or the Emma Viglins or whatever. And that's just crazy because he's literally just out here posting straight up Nazi propaganda on Twitter. Let me see if I can find this really quick. Oh, I found it. this is just straight up. This is just don't shoot the kid. Like this is just straight up Nazi propaganda. This is not based in reality whatsoever, right? So I mean that's where like your reasonable leftist stands at this point in time. So yeah, GG. These people cannot be representative of the Democratic Party if we want to continue winning elections anyways.
For example, to talk about like the trench, I would not say Kyle Kalinske should be in my like Democratic trench. If anything, I think he's like a content creator / a pundit who's going to like shit talk both sides. So how I would determine someone who I would let in the trench, there's a few things. This isn't even like a whole list. I just came up with it this morning. It's like, how do you self-identify would be one of them. Mm-hmm. Are you excited about like the party? Have you voted for Democrats when it mattered, specifically during either tough votes in the Senate or during like presidential elections? And the last one that is a non-negotiable is you don't interact with the entire party in a disparaging way during and not during elections. So like you can't do that. You can't just constantly shit on the Democrats and then want to be in the party.
Yeah, the leftists never have anything positive to say about Democrats. Even when they achieve positive things, it somehow gets spun as a negative because their goal is not to defeat Republicans. Their goal is to destroy Democrats.
I understand those are like criteria that you set out for the trenches, and I appreciate the lingo and the clarification there. And a lot of that is like totally understandable to me. One of the things that I think frustrates people when I have these conversations is like, I want to do one thing at a time.
Sure.
And so I'm happy to go wherever you want to go. If you want to talk about why this fear seems compelling to you, we can do that. If you want to talk about like this trench notion and who's in it and who's not in it, I'm happy to do that. And
what would you like to talk about? Which one?
Then, I mean, like, I want to first talk about why you're scared that we're going to have a liberal takeover of the Democratic Party. If that's like a genuine good fear that like I should have, I want to be moved by that. I want to be motivated to be fearful. If it is,
I feel like Mr. Mouton already kind of gave an answer here, which is that that it's not like an imminent threat, but it's also just not something worth ignoring. And I'm still puzzled why Pisco is so willing to just like hand wave away the threat as if it doesn't exist in any capacity. I don't understand that at all, because it's like, yeah, I mean, like, we know that this can happen. We saw it happen to the Republicans over the last 10, 15 years. So why are we just pretending it's impossible, right?
Irrational fear. I'm happy to go down also like the prescriptions of how to like prevent that fear and who to apply it to, which seems like that's the conversation, the kind of criteria you laid out just then is like, okay, we've established a fear. These are the people who are responsible for it, and this is how we tackle them, right? That's the kind of like tripartite system I could see. Is like establish that it's a worthwhile fear, then who is responsible, then what to do. So I would want to start at like, is this even something we should be scared about?
Sure. I feel like I've established that the fear is reasonable. So now we can talk about like who is causing me.
Wait, in virtue of what is it reasonable? I don't understand why it's reasonable to like.
Well, because we just saw MAGA completely take over the Republican Party. And now we have another type of people.
Much. I mean,
we have another whole group of people, like the DSA specifically, who are trying to steal literally election seats in a primary.
Yeah, so like
Pisco's gonna mauled about him using the word steal there. Let me see if I'm right.
That I feel like proves too much. If the justification for being scared that the Democrats are susceptible to the takeover is, well, it happened to the Republicans, I mean, that will be true in 10 years. That'll be true in 20 years. I mean, like, it'll be true. It's true of other organizations, perhaps. I just don't know. Like, okay, so just merely by the fact that it happened to MAGA, that's enough for you to think that it's a justified fear. Nothing else. Just the fact that there was a Trump takeover. Now,
it's not just the fact that it happened to MAGA. It's the fact that it happened to MAGA. So that's proof of concept that this issue can happen, that this cancer can metastasize. And then it's also that the threat exists and is growing for the Democrats with the DSA and with the leftist candidates. So, I mean, like, it's not just that the possibility exists, it's that the possibility exists and we are already seeing the early symptoms of that threat.
Democrats are also susceptible to it, and it's, there's at least a decent chance that it'll occur.
That's so enough. One, yes. Two, there's also other things happening. The other things would be like DSA members primarying moderate Democrats inside the bluest fucking regions and then starting to steal seats. Yes.
Okay, that's like okay. So the second piece of evidence, which is kind of like, well, the DSA candidates are winning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that that's evidence.
Well,
If
our
those
winning
candidates
is pretty far-fetched. They're winning in a few seats, but yeah.
in the primaries.
Yep.
Yeah, but the fact that you're like cagey and limiting it to the very, very blue places, I think there's already a recognition that there's limited appetite for this kind of expansion into more purple or competitive districts. Like the mere fact that you're having to call out and be like, well, have they been that successful? I think that it like shows that we all think that there's like a limited ability for them to expand into places where they're not like plus 30 blue seats.
I hope, if I'm being maximally charitable to Pisco here, I hope he's right and that it's a self-resolving problem, and that if Democrats hand over the Michigan Senate seat to a Republican because El Sayed wins the primary, when Haley Stevens or McMorrow would have had a better shot at beating the Republican, and then El Sayed loses in the general, maybe it'll wake the Democrats up to the reality that they need to take this far left problem more seriously. And maybe it'll take some of the wind out of their sails that they're currently experiencing, largely through Mamdani being a primary vector of that wind. And of course, Hutch brought up, as we saw in the last video, that the DSA tends to just do better when Republicans are in power because they can just endlessly call Democrats weak or powerless or not achieving anything when the Republicans have a trifecta. But I hope Pisco's right. I sure hope he's right, but I don't understand again, and this is what's so puzzling to me about characters like Pisco, is they have this hyper fixation on not calling out these far left elements. Like, why? What is the harm in doing it, I guess, is the question. Like, if it costs Democrats seats, well, these people are already costing Democrats seats by virtue of winning primaries. So
why isn't that like an alleviating aspect of where the evidence is occurring? Like the fact that the DSA members are only being successful, not in like Virginia in a statewide race, not in like New Jersey in a statewide race, but really just in like these super, super blue districts. Why isn't that like calming?
It's currently happening in Wisconsin. I'll answer your question and then I'll say something else. Why isn't it calming is because I feel like it's growing. This is like the first time we're starting to see real DSA types who have contempt for the Democratic establishment and the Democratic Party starting to actually win seats. And it's not going to be like a all or nothing in a single election where the DSA is going to completely take over and it's going to be over. I feel like it's going to be like a slow walk, and you need to notice and stop this at the beginning so it doesn't become like a boulder rolling down or it's like a piece of snow rolling down the hill and becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, but it doesn't take 50 years for this to happen. I mean, once you have the media apparatus, which they do, the leftists and the DSA, once you have that, all you need is a little bit of momentum and it can avalanche very quickly. We see this because the Tea Party really only started gaining a foothold the way the DSA is right now in 2010. And by 2016, they had entirely eclipsed the party. And now no old guard Republicans are left in Congress, right? Like the closest thing you have is like a Liz Cheney or a Rand Paul or a Thomas Massey, people who still vote with the Trump agenda 90+% of the time, right? Or Susan Collins. And the people who are left, they just adapted and became these populist sycophants rather than pushing back. So the Republicans failed to place the appropriate backstops to stop their party from devolving into a populist cult. And right now, Pisco is arguing against putting up those same backstops to prevent the Democratic Party from going down the same path.
I see. So it's kind of like you want to kill it in its crib. So maybe right now it's not at the point where it's extinction event precipice.
Yep.
But like you could easily see it start to gain momentum.
Yes, I'm so curious what the argument against this is, especially from a liberal perspective, as Pisco claims to be. I'm so curious to hear his answer to this. This will be very informative of his mind state. Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
then I mean, I don't necessarily agree, but let's say I grant that.
Sure.
If the candidates are well, two things. The first is you mentioned the candidates hate the Democratic establishment and the Democratic Party. I'm going to say something perhaps controversial.
Sure.
That's like a majority view now among Democrats. Like the Democratic Party hates the Democratic establishment. The Democratic Party, and by here I just mean the members, the voting people, sorry, not the members, the voting registered members of the Democratic Party. And so that's part of the reason why there's a rejection of people like Janet Mills, why some of these endorsements don't seem to have the effect that they used to have in races. I mean, you have a sitting governor in the case of Gretchen Whitmer endorsing
Hmm.
Haley Stevens, no noticeable bump from that. You have big party luminaries endorsing Janet Mills, no noticeable bump from that. There seems to be a huge rejection of the Democratic establishment and I don't know, traditional party leaders from the Democratic voters themselves. And if you look at approval ratings, it's like net negative if you ask a Democrat regarding their own party. And so I think that honestly, there's a compatibility with being fed up with the quote unquote Democratic establishment, whatever that means, and not being authoritarian, not being a liberal, not being a team player, right? Like if it's representative of some wide swath of Democratic voters to take this kind of like negative attitude to the uh, Democratic establishment, then in what sense is that an indication of illiberalism as opposed to just being fed up with the powers that be?
So why are Dems upset right now, in your opinion?
A multitude of reasons, but if you ask them from the polling that I've seen,
I'm
it's like
asking why do you
people
think
think
that
that
they
they
are?
haven't. I'm telling you, I think multiple reasons
Okay.
based on polling data. Yeah, it's a descriptive question about like why people think something, right?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. So like
Why Democratic voters think something.
what are
Yeah.
some multiple reasons, I guess?
Yeah, so I think one of the big ones, if you look at polling, is like they don't think that their Democratic leaders are fighting back against Trump enough. They don't
Okay.
think that the Democratic leaders are doing enough to stymie Trump, doing enough to push back against Trump. That's one of the big answers that if you ask them why they don't like the Democratic establishment. They
Hmm.
also think, if you look at like people like Ezra Klein talk about this, they think the Democratic leaders aren't effective. If you read Abundance, right, he almost makes an argument, Ezra does, that this is like rational given some failures in, for example, in California, brings up trains and on the slowness of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. Again, I might have my disagreements, and I do
Hmm.
honestly, with Ezra on some of these examples. I'm just saying that that's the impression from a lot of voters. And maybe it's rational, maybe it's not, but I think it's compatible both with, okay, they're just a liberal and they hate us because they ain't us or something like that, but also that they just have the intuitions that a majority of the Democratic voters do, namely that Democrats are weak and ineffective and not pushing back hard enough against Trump.
So uh I understand the
Okay,
reason that
sorry to interrupt you. I just feel
yeah.
like those are two stories you can tell, right? Like you can tell a story which is the majority of Democratic Party, slight majority. I'm not saying everyone, but the
Mhm.
majority of the Democratic Party doesn't like the Democratic establishment because they're turning a liberal, or you can tell the story of like they disapprove of the establishment because they don't feel that their party is effective. They don't feel that their party is pushing back hard enough. Those are two different stories.
Mhm.
I'm like, why pick the a liberal one? It seems like
I don't think that people dislike the Democratic Party because they're becoming a liberal. I don't think anyone's even arguing this, or the Democratic establishment. They're obviously not illiberal. I don't think anyone would make that claim. Anyone in their right mind, rather. Obviously, people see them as weak and ineffective, especially in the era of Trump. So, like, no, there's no disagreement there. But this is a product of the messaging failure of the Democrats, not really the material reality of it, right? And so the symptom or the prescription for that problem would be for liberals to build up a better messaging apparatus, which they currently lack, and that the right wing populist MAGA movement has, and that the far left populist DSA movement has. The solution is for Democrats to build up that media apparatus and make it stronger, right? Because mainstream media, while everyone always says mainstream media has a liberal bias or whatever, the largest mainstream media news source is Fox News. So it's kind of hard to make that argument these days at all. But also, it's not like it's not even like MSNBC is really doing a great job at pushing liberal messaging. They're just adhering to the facts and then trying to be balanced. Like when Charlie Kirk got killed, you could turn on MSNBC and you have these commentators coming on and talking about how he was this great guy, this guy who promoted open discussion and debate, and he's what people should strive to be, you know, in media. And it was just like ridiculous whitewashing of like an obviously terrible person, a racist, a misogynist, like a who debated college students. So like to claim that liberal media or mainstream media has a liberal bias is extremely suspect compared to the populist media structures and apparatuses that currently exist. Okay. And so the solution here, and I sound like a broken record, I always talk about this, but liberal media apparatus needs to be built up to compete on the same grounds as these populist movements, or liberalism dies. It's that simple. And it's getting better. The past year has been the most, you know, hope filled that I've had recently. The first year of Trump 2 was very doomer, and this year has been very doomer too. Don't get me wrong, but I have been seeing, you know, a little bit of, you know, liberals actually starting to fight on more even ground. We've still got a long way to go. Don't get me wrong, but I think it can still be done. But when you have other so-called liberals like Pisco or like Josiah or any number of these people who are constantly basically attacking you for wanting to attack the enemies of our party and constantly telling you we don't need to focus on this, we just need to focus on Trump all day, every single day of our fucking lives and never talk about anything else. And for some reason they're like avidly telling you this, that you need to not worry about the fucking communist rot on the far left. It makes it so much harder to actually get these things done so that liberals can start fighting on equal ground with the populist left and right. So
much more convincing to me that they're just pissed that their party's like feckless. That's the word I see like bandied around.
Sure. I just don't. So I don't think throwing the baby out with the bathwater is a good way to do this and to jump over to just being like basically the DSA. I think that we can fix this in other ways. I will say the people who don't think the Democratic leaders are fighting back against Trump right now and like being quote unquote effective, it's like, well, what are they supposed to do right now? The one thing I'll grant you is I think that we do have weakish leaders who need to be out there because they don't have anything to do. They should be on Fox News. They should be on CNN. They should be on every social media platform, and they should have a coherent, here's our Democratic platform. Here's what we're pushing for. 100% I agree with you, but I'm just not willing.
That's 100% true. And I think people like Chuck Schumer are an optics problem for the Democrats. No doubt about that. And Democrats historically for the past, decade plus have been really bad at messaging what we want. But the message is important to form and to create, but the dissemination of that message is just as important. Thus, the media apparatus that liberals lack that needs to be built up. Again, sound like a broken record here, but I do think this is the root. Well, the true root of all problems is education. But
to say like, okay, we need to burn it all down because our current establishment isn't
become Maoists. Yeah. I'm not in favor of that either. I'm not trying to give you like that it makes sense that some of the harsh feeling is as harsh as it is. I'm like pretty critical of some of Ezra's examples, especially as it relates Biden in abundance. But although I think he's more on point with people like Obama and a few others in his examples, I'm not trying to like rationalize this opinion from Democrat voters. I'm just trying to say that it's a truth. And so when you see people who are railing against the Democratic establishment, it's plausible to me, in addition to perhaps other ideological things, that this is an indication of where people are. Like, we can read polls and we know that people are upset with the powers that be. And so whether it's rational or not, whether like Schumer can do anything else other than he's doing, whether Hakeem can do anything else than what he's doing, whether we're willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater, it's just like consistent with me that the appeal that many of these people are getting is because of these vibes from Democratic voters, as opposed to like showing any sympathy towards illiberal tankyism. In fact, my impression is with a lot of these DSA candidates that they get excoriated in the media, especially traditional media, for like prison abolitionism, and they have to like walk away from them. If anything, I feel like the pressure is for them to disavow those previous views. I mean, Mamdani disavowed Hassan's statements on 9/11. I just saw this. I'm now forgetting.
I mean, that's a good thing that they have to walk away from these retarded views. That is true.
her name, the presumptive nominee in Wisconsin, she's like saying, "I'm
Oh,
not in favor of getting rid of the police
Francisca
right now."
Hong, I believe. Yeah. Miss Hong.
Hong,
Yeah.
Hong, yeah, my bad, yeah. Miss Hong, I was almost super racist there, but yeah, so like it really just does seem that the appetite among Democratic, and I could be wrong about this, voters isn't for Tankyism.
Hmm.
It's for something fresh. It's for something new, and to the extent that there are pressures, it's to like sort of curb the ideological excesses.
So
I mean, like that's why I'm
yeah,
not as concerned.
while that might be their appetite, I'm not concerned that the Democratic voter that's their appetite. I'm concerned that the people who are now feeding these Democratic voters are trying to backstab us. And I think that they kind of are sometimes even open with it. Chevrolet is literally saying, I'm a democratic socialist. They're all saying that they're DSA members. They're not Democrats. They want to seize the media production. It's called abolish the police, abolish borders, etc. I'm not concerned about the Democrats.
Abolish the Pentagon. Abolish the Department of Defense. Bro, these people are fucking crazy. They're crazy.
Democratic voter. I think we can message better. And sorry, I'll even say this. We can message at all. The Democrats don't have any good messaging right now, and get those people back. My issue is that these people start like making their headways in, and yeah, Ossoff's very good. I haven't seen anything from Hakeem Jeffries. I am for him being out as speaker. I think Chuck Schumer might be a little too old, so he might need to go. I'm for younger people taking over, and the Dems need to have an actual stance. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's all great and compatible with everything I'm saying. Like, you feel consternation at Hakeem. You feel consternation, or you think that Schumer might be too old.
I don't know what the problem is with Hakeem Jeffries. I actually think he's been doing a pretty good job, all things considered. But yeah, I do think that the leadership of the Democratic Party right now should probably be people like Pete Buttigieg, John Ossoff, the AOC, these younger people. It probably shouldn't be. I mean, AOC being DSA really hurts her, but she doesn't hold a lot of the DSA's crazy positions and explicitly disavows them and explicitly has distanced herself from those craziest positions. So that helps her. But she also lends credence to the crazies the same way Mamdani does. So I'm still going back and forth on my opinion of AOC. I want to like her so bad. I just wish she would distance herself more from these crazy fucks. But I agree that the leadership should be younger, just by virtue of, I mean, if nothing else, it's just good optics to make John Ossoff and AOC leadership in the Democratic Party. So
You think the messaging sucks. You don't like the current vibes, right? And
Correct.
you're not a socialist.
Nope.
And even though that like something like 32% of Democrats self-ID as democratic socialists, I just want to be clear, I'm not a socialist. I'm not a communist.
Do you identify
but
as a Democrat?
They just, yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
I used to be more like I'm an independent, but I've been registered Democrat since the 2016 election, where I voted for Hillary Clinton, and proudly.
Yeah,
I
voted for Hillary as well. Yeah.
in retrospect, yeah. So all I'm trying to
I also voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, and I have never voted for a fucking Republican, and I never fucking will. Okay, if it gets to the point where the Republicans are the preferable candidates, then I'm just leaving the fucking country, bro. I'm just getting the fuck out of here at that point.
say is like there's something to this like moment, I'll grant you, of the Democratic Party, that they're like sick of their old guard.
Mhm.
But I don't think that they're sick in ideological terms. I think that they're sick in terms of feelings of inadequacy, feelings of weakness, feelings of fecklessness, feelings of age. And the proof of that is like, who are the people like leading the polls among the Democratic potential nominees for president? Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg,
Ossoff.
John Ossoff a little bit, and AOC. All of these people are palatable, right? All of these people are people like you would feel comfortable with, right? Even like AOC, people get mad at me when I bring up AOC in many of these conversations because she like doesn't count, because she was even though in her past, right, she said, hey, we need to abolish prisons. She had all these cringe things too. That's why IRI is also someone who agrees with me. IRI and I don't like diverge on this. Somehow, like I get attacked more than IRI on this position. Maybe it's because I'm more, I'm seeking out like some of these more contentious conversations, and IRI is not. But IRI says the same thing. Like we can use some of this tackling fuel, if you will, some of the vibes, and it doesn't need to go in a particular ideological space. And to the extent that there's ideological incompatibilities, they fall in line, or we primary the fuck out of them. And so, like, I don't see what the issue is.
The issue is that these people are willing and ready to stab you in the back, in my opinion.
Who?
Specifically, I believe Chevalier. I don't think she's going to vote meaningfully well with Democrats, and I think she should be primaried. My position right now, if you're going to ask me, well, you're not asking me, I'm going to say on the House is that House seats for DSA members, we can give those up. The Senate, I would vote for anybody with a D next to their name right now. I will.
See,
and
I'm going to push you in a second.
Sure.
And just remember this moment, because I don't think that you're going to grant because I think you're going to say that the House of Representatives is incredibly vital. And
the House of Representatives is vital, but I think there's only like 3 or 4 DSA members right now. I'm more concerned about the Senate and the Supreme Court nominations.
Yeah, I would also, like, in the current era, want the Senate more than the House. I'm not doubting you on that.
Mhm.
And I agree, like, just because of it's a smaller chamber, the Senate.
I can't imagine an era where having the Senate is worse than having the House. The Senate's just it's the higher chamber. It's like objectively better to hold. What does he mean by in this era? Unless we're talking, I don't know. I mean, you can submit articles of impeachment, I guess, in the House, but like, what can the House do that the Senate can't do? Obviously, they pass they write the legislation, right? But I feel like having the Senate's always kind of better. And the Senate just has more access to power than the House does, as far as I understand.
Like, every one seat matters more, but I'll just give you the hypothetical, right?
Sure.
Like, who would you rather win? A DSA member or an average MAGA Republican?
Like, in the short term, obviously the DSA member, probably. I don't know, that Daria Lisa chick is really fucking crazy. But again, this is just like a thought experiment that I keep going back and forth on in my mind. Maybe the DSA candidates losing to the Republicans is better for the Democrats in the long term, because it makes the Democrats aware of the fact that these people are cancerous and are costing you seats that a moderate Democrat or even a progressive could have won, because instead you have a fucking socialist running. And maybe it makes the DNC and the Democratic Party and the Democratic media wake up and actually take the threat more seriously. So I keep going back and forth on that. I mean, obviously, policy wise, you're closer to the DSA candidate, maybe, for the most part. Like a Mamdani, obviously, you're way closer. But then like a Chevalier, you're like, am I that much closer to this person than I am to a Republican? I don't know, man. All I'm trying to say here is they need to earn my vote. Okay, I'm uncommitted
In the House race.
Currently, right now, I would rather an average Republican win, because I don't want the DSA to gain ground inside of the House of Representatives and then further legitimize their like absolutely horrible fucking place.
So you have, okay, and that doesn't apply to Graham Plattner because it's the Senate.
Yes,
because you said
it wouldn't. It would not apply to Plattner because it's the Senate. So, no, any DSA member, I would love in the Senate
against Susan Collins. Okay.
Oh,
if you knew that the House of Representatives, the margin there was 1-2 seats, would you prefer a DSA member to win a seat against an average Republican?
Yes.
To keep control of the chamber?
Yes.
Okay. What I'll posit to you is there's like, these margins are incredibly narrow, and
they're narrow.
It seems bizarre to me that
they're narrow, but I don't think they're 1 to 2 seats narrow. I think the Dems right now have like a 95% chance to win the House, and I'm willing to fuck around with some New York City seats, like 2 of them.
But like, to what end, right? If it doesn't matter, in other words, if
the end is taking the wind out of the DSA sails and the far left sails so that they don't continue to grow and metastasize as the cancer that they are to the Democratic Party. That's the end.
Here's what you're saying. I'll prefer a MAGA Republican in a House race.
You said an average
DSA
Republican
member when it doesn't.
But it doesn't matter. I'd grant it anyways.
Yeah, yeah, like average Republican, you think is a MAGA Republican,
At this
right?
point, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So you're basically saying I will prefer the average MAGA Republican against a DSA candidate for a House seat only when it doesn't matter, right? Only when like it's not in question whether the seat's going to go one way or the other. Only when the margin in the House is irrelevant. And so, how much teeth does it have? You're basically saying uh, it only matters to have this preference when it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I believe that
Over
currently right now we have the wiggle room to play with. So yes, I would rather not have DSA members in the House of Representative, further moving them towards like being a legitimate part of like the Democratic Party, quote unquote, because they don't run as DSA members, they run as Democrats.
So should we expect for you to endorse AOC's challenger in her House race in Queens?
AOC was kicked out of the National Democratic Party. But
she
if
wasn't endorsed by the National Party.
No, she was kicked out, I believe. They said that they were kicking her out if she doesn't not vote for Israel bills. Sorry, the DSA is what I meant.
So yeah, so the National DSA I think rescinded their endorsement of AOC, and so she's not included in the set because of that.
Well, no. I mean, if there is a better candidate that I feel comes that's a Democrat, I will want them in the primary. That's what primaries are for, right?
No, but in the general, right?
I just want you to keep in mind that this organization is so radical that AOC is not far left enough for them to endorse. Their lack of endorsement makes me 10x more willing to support AOC, by the way. I have a much warmer opinion of AOC right now than I do of even Zoran Mamdani. So their lack of endorsement is very enticing to me as a voter. I would maybe even consider voting for her in a presidential election or even in a primary, maybe. Right now, I mean, the top three, she's number 3 right now in Polymarket. I don't know how that's going to hold up all the way up into 2028, but right now the top 3 are Newsom and Ossoff and AOC. And Kamala's in 4th, which is crazy. She's down to a 9% chance, which is crazy for being the previous candidate. But I mean, like, I'd prefer Newsom or Ossoff right now, but my opinion on this can evolve with time as well. We'll see. But right now, my opinion of AOC is still pretty positive. And a big part of that is the DSA rescinding their endorsement of her. So,
in the general, obviously AOC.
In the general, you're having obviously AOC, but if she had been endorsed by the National DSA, which I think they're going to re-endorse her, by the way, if they haven't already, would that change?
AOC's also been inside of the actual Senate, and I think we at this point know how she votes and everything like that. So it would change.
House?
Sorry, yes, I misspoke. Yeah, in the House. Yeah, so yes, I would still endorse AOC over a MAGA Republican.
Lander hasn't been endorsed by the DSA explicitly.
Sure.
He was one of the 3 that Mamdani endorsed. You would endorse him over a MAGA Republican.
I don't know enough about Brad Lander, but if you watched my conversation with the digital ground game people back in January, one of the guys, Sam, was talking very positively about Brad Lander. He said during the primaries he was a Lander supporter over Mamdani. And so I trust his opinion enough that I don't think Brad Lander is of the constitution of characters that are problematic that are being discussed here. And he's also not DSA. Zoran Mamdani endorsed him. That might have been a conditional endorsement. We don't really know, but
I got to go read Lander's. I have to read what his, I guess, views are specifically and see. I don't have the answer right now.
Okay. But it's plausible to you that Lander might be someone that you
It's possible
support, even though he like was an insurgent against Dan Goldman. Dan Goldman, an effective member. He pretty effective in especially cross-examining MAGA Republicans in hearings and stuff.
It's plausible.
That is okay. Is it plausible to you that you would support? Well, I guess El Sayed is the Senate, right?
Yep, El Sayed has got my full
And so El
support, and I
Sayed-
will campaign for him if he wins. I will go door knock.
Okay, and Hong.
Uh, Hong in Wisconsin? Absolutely not.
Yeah, for
No.
state governor.
No.
You don't think that the
Based. Mr. Based Mouton here.
the governor's mansion in Wisconsin is vital? I mean, this is a swing state. The governor runs elections there. You're going to put that in the
That's a
hands
pretty
of the
powerful.
Republican?
That's a pretty powerful seat to give to a crazy lady.
Yeah, governor. I mean, like, House seats are one thing, bro, but putting these people in executive government positions, like Mamdani is in an executive position in New York City, so he has to be extremely moderate. Hong being in an executive position as governor, don't know about that one, Chief. That's a little scary to me.
I know what a Republican will do. I
It's
don't
a pretty
know what a
powerful
crazy
seat to give
DSA
to a
member.
crazier.
Yeah, like Pisco here is talking with what Pisco is suggesting here is like it's an important swing state, blah blah blah. Okay, and so what? These people aren't liberals, so why the fuck are we supposed to like automatically be supportive of them? Like Francesca Hong is not a liberal. She, just because they're insurgents who are running under the label of Democrat because it's a two-party system, doesn't mean that they're on our side, my friend.
I mean, we've seen things that state MAGA governors have done in places where Trump has tried to fuck with elections.
Yeah, it's bad. So are fucking commie fucks. And this is kind of revealing as well, I think, of the mind state here that a lot of these people who refuse to call this shit out are holding, like, Josiah or Pisco or IRI. And it's that they just don't view these far left people as dangerous as they actually are. They have warmer feelings on them than they're letting on. Even if they'll come out and say, like, yeah, of course, abolishing prisons is silly. Like, ultimately, they just view them as like the same as us, but more left. And that's not what they are. They are illiberal. Like, they are a threat to democracy if they gain power. So they're the baked in assumption that these people are any better than MAGA. Like, maybe in the short term on certain policy things, maybe, but they're the same fucking thing. They're the same threat. They are illiberal. They are the same problem.
They're way more sympathetic to those efforts.
My goal right now is to kill basically the evil baby before it becomes
and this gets back to my point of maybe it's just better to take the wind out of their sails, and maybe it's okay if they cost the Democrats a couple seats here and there, because it wakes the Democrats up to the cancer that is growing and metastasizing in the DSA. So maybe it is better if MAGA wins those seats, honestly, because MAGA is MAGA. It's already what it is. But if the DSA continues to win seats, then they pick up steam. They continue to grow. They gain more credibility. So that's where the real long-term vision or the long-term threat of these people presents itself.
Monster who kills my party.
And that would mean wouldn't that mean helping a Republican win the governor's mansion in Wisconsin over this candidate?
No, I'm just not going to spend any time there.
But you would prefer the Republican to win?
Would I prefer the Republican to win over Hong? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll grant that.
Isn't that an endorsement?
No. I can prefer somebody to win and not endorse them.
Well, I just view an endorsement as like a statement of support about who your preference is to win an election.
I disagree.
And maybe you mean something different by endorsement?
I think the average person would think that an endorsement is you actually pushing for the person and saying that this person is someone you want to win.
Well, I just don't understand.
That was good. Damn, Mr. Mouton's like picking up on Pisco's little debate pedophile tactics here. Damn, he's on point right now. He's locked in.
And if this is such a big threat, why not endorse him? I mean, like, if you really want to stand by your principle that this
I would
person
never endorse a fucking
is such a threat to
Republican.
your own party, just because of like the signaling effects it would send.
No, I would just never endorse them.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, because the Democrat or the Republican Party is fucking crazy. Like, they're insane anti-American freaks, but so are the DSA. So, I mean, like, you can, like you're looking at it from a long-term or a consequentialist perspective. Like, yeah, maybe you would prefer a Republican to win against a socialist in certain elections for the long-term outcomes, the long-term repercussions of that. But to endorse them kind of is more than just saying this is my preference. Endorsing is more like saying you agree with their platform and you think their platform is like a positive vision. Whereas it's like, this is actually, when 10 years ago when it was Hillary and Trump, and Hillary was leaps and bounds ahead of Trump, and a couple years ago when it was Kamala and Trump, and Kamala was leaps and bounds ahead of Trump in terms of being good for the country, people calling it the lesser of two evils were being ridiculous and silly. Like, it was so fucking easy, that decision. Whereas here, when you're choosing between a fascist and a socialist, I mean, that is really like the lesser of two evils calculus coming out. And it's such a wash at that point that it's like, I mean, I guess maybe this thing would be better than the other, like if I had to guess, but ultimately I'm not going to endorse the fascist or the fucking commie pig. Like, what? Like, that's what an endorsement means, is you're saying I support this platform and this vision for the country or for the place that they're running in. It's not just saying like, oh, I slightly think this would be less fucking like mildly less catastrophic than the alternative. That's not really if that is an endorsement, that's one weak ass endorsement.
They have no, they have diametrically opposed views to me.
But like, why wouldn't you canvass for them? Why wouldn't you? If you want this result,
because there's many other places that I can go and I can canvass for it. I only have so much time.
Okay. But if you could snap your fingers, you would make the MAGA Republican win the governor's mansion, right?
Currently, this year, yes, over a DSA member, yeah.
Okay. I think that's brutal to hear, man. And if anyone thinks that that's like a majority opinion on Live and Learn, maybe that you guys think that Live and Learn is Tanky and Learn or something or whatever.
No.
Or you think that that's a majority opinion among Democratic faithful? I mean, if we're going to go to the race in Wisconsin, it's going to be like 90+% vote for the Democratic nominee. This is the aberrant view. This is the the view that's a minority, not the view that like we should support the nominee in the Wisconsin governor's race. Which,
yeah, it's not the popular view. That's kind of the fucking problem. That's why we're advocating for people to stop supporting these tanky fucks instead of constantly sweeping for them and letting the fucking boulder roll down the hill. Like, how long does the boulder need to, or how long does the snowflake need to roll down the hill before it becomes a full avalanche that you can't stop? At a certain point, you need to stop it, even if it in the short term it hurts.
Yeah, enforcement of state law in Wisconsin, a state that has been targeted specifically by Trump for election, interference and shit. That is fucked up. In this age, we don't want to play with that.
I just don't want the DSA to come and kill my party, man. I don't know what to tell you. And I believe that this won't be a long-term thing if they're quote unquote killed now. It's like, it's a thing that you got to do now. Hopefully at the end of,
I mean, but if she was running for the Senate, you would vote for her.
Yes, because because the Supreme Court is the most important thing in the world. Yeah. If Trump gets another 2 seats, like this whole thing is cooked. Like it's GG.
Some of the most important pushbacks against the MAGA regime have been on things from state actors. Gavin Newsom on redistricting. Abigail Spanberger, when she, in many different ways, including the attempt to do the gerrymander with the amendment that failed because of judges there. Mikey Sherrill, governors like Pritzker. It's the difference between having cooperation with ICE and not. It's the difference between having cooperation with National Guard deployments and not. It's the difference between suing the federal government and not suing the federal government. I mean, this is like a massive, huge deal in one of the most consequential swing states. And if you're willing to give that up to a MAGA Republican in this context, I just don't think you think MAGA is that bad or that Trump is that bad. I mean,
and Trump are on their way out currently. The DSA, I don't know what the fuck they're going to do, are on their way in. They're trying to absolutely steal my party. Just because I think Trump's really bad.
Do not underestimate your opponents, man.
Yeah, I'm going to say that to Trump. You, man. You shouldn't underestimate the DSA.
Yeah, That's the whole fucking point everyone's been trying to make. Or not everyone, but that's the whole point that we've been trying to make anyway, is that you're underestimating the threat that the DSA presents, especially in the long term. That's the whole fucking problem.
Hey.
Well, I'm afraid there's a track record, in my opinion, of Trump and MAGA destroying this country and doing authoritarian shit. And when they get onto power, I don't see that track record among.
That's because they're not in power yet. But why would we take the risk when we can already see that they're clearly crazy? They have a crazy platform, and they call themselves democratic socialists, but every socialist takeover of a country in human history has led to a single party state and authoritarian rule. So why would we take the fucking risk with this insane ideology? Like,
DSA endorsed governor nominee. Like, it feels insane that we're having this conversation. And maybe, yeah, I would endorse the more moderate candidate in a primary context in Wisconsin. But to say you prefer the MAGA Republican in the age of Trump, in an age of like where they're literally trying to fuck with elections,
I feel like the DSA is an absolute existential threat to the Democratic Party, and I would like it to be over ASAP versus like continue with what I feel is to come. So yeah, I'm willing to lose one governor race and a few House seats this election in order for hopefully it to be completely stomped out. That's correct.
And why do you think that would occur?
Because
why would this achieve that result?
It would show that they're completely unelectable.
So you think if she loses this election, the DSA is going to go away, or if enough DSA members?
It'll certainly take the wind out of their sails and kneecap them if they win these primaries and then lose in the general to Republicans. I think it'll wake people up to the fact that they're just not. I mean, like the tanky left, these crazy leftists are completely fucking delusional, right? Like Bernie loses 2 primaries. He loses a primary to Biden twice, and they just cope about him being rat fucked, right? They'll come up with their ridiculous explanations, but the reality is that it'll hopefully wake people up to the fact that they're cancer rot to the party. Hopefully it'll wake up the DNC and the media to the fact that these people aren't electable in competitive districts and in competitive races. That would be the ideal outcome. I mean, who the fuck knows, though, that maybe they'll just be able to message and say that AIPAC and the DNC rat fucked all of them somehow magically. But ideally that would be the outcome, is that the DNC gets kneecapped by costing the Democratic Party seats. I mean, like at this point, it's probably the only thing that's going to wake people up, because liberals are so fucking unable to actually push back against their opposition as it stands. Hopefully that changes soon. I mean, maybe this is like the medicine that the party needs.
Lose the general this time. I mean, most of these candidates who are, and again, we'll have to inquire a little bit more about who is part of this set, because it does not yet include Lander, because you haven't examined his like platforms or whatever.
Haven't looked.
It certainly doesn't include AOC. Does it include Bernie Sanders?
Does it include Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders has been around for fucking ever, and he votes obviously all the time with fucking Democrats. So no, I wouldn't say it would include Bernie. No. It includes more people. Yeah, Ilhan Omar, it would include 100%.
Yeah, Ilhan Omar destroyed her credibility recently when she voted against supporting Ukraine. That was just unbelievable. How can you make your fucking central issue Israel-Palestine? I said this in the last video, but how can you make your central issue Israel-Palestine, and then, which is like the most morally complex conflict in history almost, and then fail and then falter on Ukraine-Russia, which is such a black and white issue. It is unbelievable the level of delusion or subversive tactics you need to be on to fail that calculation, right? Obviously, the crazy leftists, your Hassan Piker and your Cenk Uyghurs and whatnot, these people obviously will do this, but that's literally because they are serving, the Chinese Communist Party and the Russian Putin government's interests. They're subversively trying to destroy the United States' standing on the global stage. So of course they're going to give that opinion. But for Ilhan Omar to do that, that's like insane. That's crazy. So yeah, I would never I would never support Ilhan Omar after that.
I just don't understand why make a distinction between Ilhan Omar and Bernie Sanders. That to me is bizarre. Ilhan Omar also mostly votes for Democrats. She has a better record. Here's what I say, right? Ilhan Omar has a better record in the House voting for Democrats than like Jared Golden. She has a better record than Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez. She wasn't like Tom Suozzi, who's condemning Kamala as the borders are.
Bernie Sanders
they don't take those votes.
Bernie Sanders is a what?
Independent.
In which part of in which branch?
No, but I'm talking
in the Senate.
In Vermont, in the Senate. No, yeah,
that's the difference.
No, but the person, right? I'm talking about the person. Whether this would apply if Bernie Sanders was running for state office somewhere, right? If Bernie was running for state office in Wisconsin, or if he was running for state, like.
That's a goalpost shift if I've ever seen one, Pisco.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get like the type of person, regardless of like which specific race. I grant that.
I don't want to talk about like the hypotheticals or whatever. I want to talk about like core, I guess, people and whatnot. So like if we're talking about like the actual core thing of like, would I vote for Bernie or would I vote for Ilhan Omar? Well, I would obviously vote for Bernie. He's in the Senate, which is the most important thing in my mind. I would not vote for Ilhan Omar. She's a House member, and yeah, I think that she should be gone with hopefully the rest of the DSA members. Okay, AOC can say.
But you would, so you don't want to address hypotheticals. Any hypothetical in this conversation?
No, I'm down to address hypotheticals, but I'm not gonna. I don't want to address like the hypothetical of like if Bernie was running in like this random race, would I vote for him? Does that make sense? It just gets a bit like crazy.
And why is that?
Or because it's just not. It's not even like. It's not even a thing that matters or is going to happen or we could like even know about.
Okay.
Let me do my debate pedantry, Pisco, or Mr. Mouton. Please let me be a debate pedophile. Please, 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 please let me. I mean, like that's Pisco's primary debate tactic, right? Is putting up these absurd rules around the specific thing you're discussing over and over and over again until he can catch you on some like vague inconsistency and then just hammer that in the most condescending manner possible. So Mr. Mouton outright rejecting this is actually so fucking, I don't know if it was calculated or if it's just like by chance, but it's a very smart way to shut down Pisco's style of debate.
So all right, you would vote for Bernie. You would not vote for Ilhan Omar.
That's right.
You would vote for the MAGA Republican in Wisconsin governor's race.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, I would. For this election, yes.
Okay. All right. I think there's a values like difference here. I think that MAGA is a more existential threat and requires like all hands on deck, and it's not dead yet. Trump is not out of office yet. He still holds the power. And so even if I granted this fear, like these people are backstabbers, that they're not going to fall in line, where there's a track record of them falling in line, right? Like you have AOC falling in line. You have, Bernie Sanders, he is maybe a model for a lot of these types. And again, like you mentioned, you don't really have a problem with him. You have Mamdani, who's working closely with Kathy Hochul, who did not endorse a challenger against Hakeem Jeffries. So there's a model there which assuages my fears a little bit, and the limited nature of where the success is happening. Given that factor, I just think it's all hands on deck against MAGA, and I would never countenance giving up the governor's mansion in fucking Wisconsin.
I don't agree with Pisco's logic here because, and Pisco doesn't even believe this. Who was it? Was it Destiny that said this to him? Someone, I mean, it must have been Destiny if it was the rape analogy, right? He said, would you vote for the pro-rape or would you work with the pro-rape Democrats? If there was a theoretical party or a theoretical caucus of Democrats that were pro-rape, I think it was. He's like, would you work with them? And he's like, well, obviously no. He's like, why? And it's, well, the conclusion is that ultimately there's a difference in core principles and core ideological values between you that is so great that working with them, even to defeat an opposition like MAGA, becomes untenable. And that is the distinction that exists between liberals and socialists, okay? They are operating on a fundamentally different paradigm. They are not on our team. So to treat them like they are, or like they're useful allies in combating MAGA is silly, because this is like working with the Nazis to defeat the USSR. Like It's untenable.
For 4 years under this administration when they're currently in power. Now that's a values disagreement.
Sure. Yeah, we just disagree.
It's worth it to triangulate that position. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, this is just like a disagreement.
right.
I don't think we'll move either person on the Wisconsin House race, or sorry, the governorship.
Okay. And in terms of the candidates to whom this applies, definitely Chevalier, definitely Valdez, and Ilhan Omar. And
Omar, for
Ilhan
sure,
Omar,
yeah.
why?
She didn't vote for Ukraine. She's a DSA member. I would want her primaried. Would be the goal.
Okay. So you're willing to, on the sort of lack of Ukraine support.
Yes, Pisco. Yes, that's what he's saying. This reminds me of, it was when Hassan debated Ethan Klein, and he was like, "Do you agree that what Israel is doing in Gaza is a genocide?" And Ethan said yes. And he said, "So you agree with multinational organizations, various governments, the UN?" And then Ethan Klein was like, "I already said yes." Like, why are you asking the same fucking question again? Like, he said yes. He would not, like, that is like a red line. Like, failure to vote for supporting Ukraine is a bright red line where your principles are so far gone from where we stand that it's untenable. A relationship with this person, working with this person, supporting this person, even against someone like MAGA, it has become untenable. Okay. And I mean, like, maybe in a general, it would still be better to vote for Ilhan Omar because she gets some optical wins, but she also is constantly attacked by MAGA, right? She's just as much of a liability as she is a boon for the Democratic Party. So it's you'd have to do that calculus, but I would love to see her get fucking primary. That would be awesome.
And again, this is not in the primary. In the primary, I can understand it. In the general, because of lack of Ukraine support, vote for the MAGA Republican.
Yes.
Even though the MAGA Republicans, I don't know, on average.
He's biting the bullet even harder than I would. I probably wouldn't vote for MAGA. I would never vote for a Republican. Like I said earlier, if it got to that point where I'm having to choose between socialists and fascists, I'm just getting the fuck out of the country. I would probably not vote in that election at all because it's so fucking cooked at that point, right?
Average, but a lot of them are also against funding for Ukraine. But
I'm willing to do that because I
prioritize,
want
for
the
example.
DSA to die, and I don't believe that the House is currently in a unwinnable spot.
This is the thought experiment I keep going back and forth on. It seems he's already made the determination that it's worth it in order to kill the DSA to support Republicans against them. I would never vote for a Republican, I don't think. I just don't think I could stomach it. But I can hope. Like, I do hope that El Sayed loses the Senate race, honestly. Just so that it fucking makes the Democrats wake up to the reality before them. Because clearly, like, when you have actors like Pisco and Josiah and all these people who refuse to take the threat seriously, and Brian Tyler Cohen, Adam Mockler, all these media figures refuse to call out the extremist elements of the party before they grow into a problem that we can't deal with. I think that maybe it is better in the long term to see these DSA candidates and these leftists. I know El Sayed's technically not DSA, but he's just as aligned with them as anyone else, right? As the movement as anyone else. So I mean, like, maybe it is just better for these people to lose to the Republicans so that the Democrats have to look like, holy fuck, this was a locked in Senate seat almost. Like, if McMorrow or if Stevens had ran in the general, then we would have this seat. And now we don't because some fucking commie fuck won the primary. So now, and then they actually start taking it more seriously, and liberal media and liberal politicians and the DNC and the PACs and whatever, they all start actually taking it more seriously, right? That would be ideal, maybe. Again, you have to do the calculus because the Trump administration is such a grave threat. But in 10 years or 15 years or 4 years, if we have, President J.D. Vance, that might be a greater threat to have these commie pigs weighing down our side when we need to be able to fight back competently. So, I mean, like, it's almost to the point where it's already at a wash, and it's hard to make the calculus, but I mean, like, yes, the DSA is this grave of a threat that you need to make this calculus in the first place. And it's very depressing that we have even people who are on our team and are our allies, like Pisco, fighting so hard against taking the threat seriously.
For the Democrats without like a few seats. Yeah. I believe the Democrats are going to win the House. They're going to have a majority. I don't think it's 1-2 tight.
But if it were like, so if it was like 15, 16 DSA members, does that argument go away? Now the House of Representatives is in play, right?
I would, at that point, then
the bigger the margin, in other words, the more
successful they get, the harder it is to stop working with them. That's why I want them to die now.
Okay. Damn, man, that's depressing for me. I just gotta be honest.
I don't know why. It's one election that I want them to just be gone from, and then we can go back to having the fucking Democratic Party, and we can hopefully message better and win all of these people who are starting to go for like DSA crazies back.
The DSA members take like even just like 8 or 9 seats. I don't think you're going to say that the margin is secure enough.
You lagged a little bit. Can you say it again?
Oh, my bad. Yeah. So there is a crossover point where if DSA members that are included in the set, again, excluding the ones who are not included in the set because they have good views, there's a crossover point at which even like 6, 7, 8.
There will be a point at some point of critical mass, which
you're not going to fuck around with that,
which would be uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
There would be a critical mass point which I would be uncomfortable with. Yes. I'm not saying that I like MAGA. I don't like MAGA. I just want the DSA to die right now.
I don't think you're saying that. No.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you think this will achieve? But the thing is, like, why do you think this will achieve that?
If they can't win these, if they can't win these seats, specifically the ones in New York City, it would show that these people are absolutely unelectable. And then I would hope that all of the fucking influencers out there who are pushing for these people would realize they're unelectable and stop pushing for them and instead try and push for moderate Democrats versus these nut jobs.
And in Wisconsin, that will be demonstrative of their lack of electability.
Yeah, if a DSA member loses the fucking
and then people will stop being... DSA will lose its influence.
I would hope.
Or you think it's more likely they will?
That would be more likely, yeah.
I'm less confident of that, but all right. So let's move. That's part of the prescription in terms of voting. I think that is an understandable prescription. It's one that makes sense to me. I disagree with it. I mean, I just think that we disagree on the prescription. It's not on. I will say this is the first time that someone has suggested not voting for like a real, what I think is like an insanely important race in a general election. But I will just like disagree with that. And that is like closer to what when I was talking to Avi, his prescription would be.
And it's okay to disagree. I don't mind like disagreeing with you on this or whatever. I just want people to understand I genuinely view the DSA as the scariest thing right now, versus who I believe is on their way.
The scariest?
Yeah, in this election, I believe this DSA are fucking incredibly scary right now. Yeah. Obviously.
Yeah, because they're threatening to destroy the only resistance that exists to MAGA. So if you're so afraid of MAGA, which you should be, by the way, and what they're doing to the country, well, the DSA is doing nothing but aiding and abetting that destruction.
I think the MAGA, well, not for the Senate. Obviously, I believe that the MAGA Republicans and Trump are technically the scariest thing. I just meant like they're very scary. If I really viewed them as the scariest thing, that I wouldn't be pushing for the senators, like DSA senators or whatever. Yeah, but I am pushing for that. So,
okay, yeah, I don't share that fear, and so we disagree on that. So in terms of that prescription, I'm just not going to sign on to it. Although I appreciate you because I do think that that's like a concrete and like real prescription with teeth to it. I'm just like, holy fuck, I'm not going to do that, bro. And I think that you should, if the Senate is important enough vis-a-vis the Supreme Court, the Wisconsin governor's mansion is important enough, bro. It really fucking is. I mean, these state offices are super, super fucking crucial. Remember when Elon Musk was like, I'm sorry, this is my last attempt to try to convince you otherwise, because I feel like I'm failing in this conversation to impress upon you the importance of it.
I get
Elon Musk was all guns blazing.
It's not a matter of not understanding how important the governorship is. Like what? Yeah, we all know it's fucking important, Pisco. It's the problem is that you want us to support someone who is just as bad as MAGA. It's like, no. Why? Like, at least if the DSA candidate loses, maybe it kills their shitty movement. If the MAGA person loses, I mean, MAGA's still here. The Republican Party is what it is already. The Democrats have a chance to stop themselves from becoming what the Republicans became with MAGA. So ultimately, yeah, like it's not a lack of understanding how important these positions are, like House seats or the governorship. It's a matter of not like, yes, you can understand that and still think, okay, well, I don't want a fucking socialist to win it. And MAGA is what MAGA is already. So a socialist winning it, I don't even see how that tangibly, sorry, I don't even see how that tangibly is better than a MAGA person winning that seat. And in the long run, it might be worse because it helps the DSA continue building up their movement and gaining credibility with voters.
Yeah.
You can keep going, sir.
But what do you think they're going to do in Wisconsin if she wins? Like, she's going to end private property. She's going to end democracy in Wisconsin.
She's going to further along the movement, right? Zoran Mamdani has been extremely moderate in his positions. One, because he's the mayor of the city, so he has to actually, run an effective government and not live in commie fantasy land. But two, because he is like the gateway drug to this commie bullshit, right? Mamdani gets elected, and yeah, he's moderate and he doesn't do any super crazy shit. I think the city operated grocery stores are going to be a massive failure and a big smear on his reputation, probably. That's my prediction right now. I mean, we won't know for a while because apparently it's going to take 2 fucking years to open them all somehow, to open 5 grocery stores. Very efficient stuff going on here. But I mean, like, yeah, he gets to be the moderate guy who acts like a liberal or a progressive, but then he endorses the fucking tanky psychos like Daria Lisa Chevalier. So, I mean, like, he's the gateway drug to the destruction of the party. So, yeah, like, I understand. Like if Hong wins the governorship, she's not going to get rid of private property or whatever, but she's going to further along the movement on that path. And that's the threat.
Wisconsin?
The problem if she wins, it signals to other like DSA members that like these are quote unquote winnable seats. And that like DSA actually has a place in here and they can like mask on as hard as they want and then actually win. And then they become like a huge like snowball effect. So yes, I don't want any DSA members in any huge positions of power.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that apply to the Senate though? I mean, if it's really a snowball effect,
The Senate, there's two Supreme Court. There's 2 Supreme Court seats right now of people who can and probably will retire if the Republicans win. That would give Trump a total of, I think, 5 Supreme Court justice seats. It's 4 or 5, and that can't happen.
Just that he nominated.
That is losing an entire branch of government to wackos.
Okay. And I'll try one last time. On the House of Representatives margins, you think it's not plausible that it'll be limited to a 1, 2, 3 seat margin?
That's correct.
The Democratic victory.
Yes. If I saw that.
Why is that implausible to you?
If I saw that it became like it's a 1 to 2 margin, I would probably push for the DSA members. I'd have to think about it a little bit more, but yeah.
It seems really contingent to me. Like this is like the, I don't know.
It is contingent.
Doctor Strange set of possibilities. Oh, that's what I mean. But like,
all of politics is contingent. What does he mean by that?
Precariously contingent.
Yeah,
so that
being
if your
precarious
perspective here. On the,
we're in a very precarious position. We have populist, illiberal fucking freaks and authoritarians on both sides of us trying to destroy our country. Yes, everything is fucking precarious right now.
I'm not saying that you're being precarious. I'm saying like the set of circumstances by which you're not endorsing those members in House seats is really contingent on your intuition that the margin in the House is implausibly going to be as narrow as 2, 3 seats.
That's correct.
Okay. Oof. And all right, so let's walk through the candidates. It's only House members and state offices. Anyone besides Chevalier and Valdez. and Ilhan Omar.
I don't have any other names.
Now it's 3.
I don't have any other names off the top of my head now.
Okay. Cool. So I think we've identified what we disagree about.
Sure.
And I know the proposal, and I think people can just can determine for themselves whether they agree with it. Your recommendation or my recommendation. Is there anything else you think that we disagree about other than our views on the existential nature of DSA and who to vote for in the upcoming elections?
No, I think for the most part, you and I agree on most things. I think we just have a different view of what the DSA is going to be and like how it's going.
Okay. And on the media stuff, because there's also this like,
ask him why he always fucking sweeps for Tankies, please. I know he's not going to, but I wish.
This like, I'm anti-Semitic now, and like I sweep for communists. Like,
I don't think he's anti-Semitic. He does sweep for communists constantly every single time they come up.
Like, do you take that view? And you think?
Do
that,
I think you're anti-Semitic? No, I don't think you're anti-Semitic.
Well, yeah. Okay.
The only thing that would lead me to believe that is you brought a guy on named fucking the Jew Stalker onto your Twitter space, but no, I don't think you're anti-Semitic.
I brought on Myron Gaines. Surely that was more. I mean, Myron Gaines goes on there and starts talking about.
They're equally deranged, but no, I don't think Pisco's anti-Semitic. I think he's very naive and fooled by these subversive people.
JQ stuff and how he hates women.
Well, I don't think you should have been either.
Myron Gaines.
At least you can get something out of Myron Gaines.
You think I should have brought on Myron Gaines?
Well, I'll say this. At least you can get something out of Myron Gaines versus the Jew Stalker, who you can't get anything from because he has a way smaller audience than you.
I see people who are like prominent people in the like the requests, and I just add them. I mean, I organized that entire conversation with Hobbit Follower because he reached out to me. And at the end, I was just taking questions from the people who I saw that were requests that I recognized.
If Hitler requested, would you add him?
I mean, yes, I would.
Well, then that's
you want to take an opportunity to talk to Hitler?
No.
So would you like never talk to Nick Fuentes?
Would I never talk to Nick Fuentes? Nick Fuentes has I wouldn't add somebody with a smaller quote unquote platform to me to come spew their crazy shit when they're trying to legitimize themselves as like Democrat or like a Democratic commentator. No, I wouldn't personally. No.
I wasn't thinking of any of that. Like, I think
sure. I'm not saying you did. I'm not saying you do think of that. I'm just saying that that's something I disagreed with, like you doing technically. I don't think when you added somebody to the Twitter space
as well as Myron Gaines.
No, I said you can gain something from Myron Gaines, so I understand why you would do it.
But in terms of like anti-Semitism,
he's obvious. He's pretty bad. What?
No, yeah, he's anti-Semitic.
Pulling him up. No, I wouldn't say that's anti-Semitic of you. No.
Okay, cool. All right. Sick.
Now, if you let him come on your platform and he just like spewed anti-Semitism for an hour and you didn't say anything, I would say that, well, maybe you're tangentially agreeing with him by not saying anything, right? But I think that you
by not
have,
like pushing
you would
back
have you would have appropriate pushback. You're not an idiot. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, bro. I mean, like, all right, I'm gonna try one more time. No, you cannot say that.
Wait, what about talk about the sweeping for commies part? He does do that. Every time they talk about communism, he wants to sweep them under the fucking rug. Please talk about that. Please. Please. Because if I can hear Pisco give an adequate explanation for why he is always covering for Tankies, I can build my theory of mind for him a little better, and maybe it's so reasonable what he says that I'll come to agree with him. I want to know why every single time I've ever heard this dude talk about leftists, he is fucking sweeping for them, advocating on their behalf, when these people would never do the same for liberals. And all they do all day, every day, all day long is attack liberals. I want to understand why Pisco feels such a strong primal urge to cover for these people. I want to know. God damn it.
You would prefer a MAGA fucking Republican, the governor's office
in this race. I would, man. I would.
It's too fucking important. And
I would.
You're brain broken right now. And
I'm not. Like, go ahead.
They're not about to turn the party into this authoritarian liberal thing. That's crazy. Why do you think that? The Democratic faithful are like way too self-critical. They're way too a diverse coalition. If you ask them, if you poll the Democratic faithful, like, do you support with these kinds of authoritarian measures, getting rid of police, getting rid of prison? It's not going to happen. They're going to have to moderate, or their ass is going to be sent packing. That's exactly what Democrats did, by the way, in like San Francisco with the mayor guy and all these. Remember the ballot initiatives in California after they had like lowered the criminalization of certain crimes or whatever? The Democratic Party, when they see that their own candidates are fucking up, it's this fucking self-repair, self-defense mechanism. It happens. How can you be scared of like a Maoist takeover of the party? The party will just wipe their ass with these people and throw them out. And they have done that to the extent that they're ineffective or they don't fall in line. It happened also in the House of Representatives with Jamal Bowman, and it happened like with these candidates who are crazy, stupid, distracting. This shit occurs, Mouton, and there's no basis other than, well, it happened to Trump. It's not going to happen to the Democratic Party, and there's no basis to believe it is.
Miss Hong
Such that you're going to give away the governor's mansion in Wisconsin. That's fucking insane. That's one of the closest fucking swing states at a time when Trump is targeting these states. And you should, the evidence of that should be on how insistent they were regarding the Wisconsin Supreme Court elections there. Elon Musk spent millions of dollars in that race precisely because it was so important. You understand? You can't give that up.
It's not the level of importance that is the disconnect here. I feel like I'm a broken clock when I talk about this, but it's not the level of importance of the race that is the distinguishing factor here. Obviously, it's the fact that the people you're advocating on behalf of here are marginally better than MAGA. And even if they are marginally better than MAGA, or even if they're slightly better than MAGA, ultimately, in the long run, a DSA candidate losing hurts their movement. And if we can kill the baby in the crib, that might be preferable, even if the shittier candidate, being the MAGA candidate, were to win that election.
Man, this is existential right now. Do not underestimate Trump just because he appears weaker.
Stop underestimating the fucking DSA, Pisco, please. Yeah. Stop underestimating fucking commie pigs. They're just as bad as MAGA.
Miss Hong has to earn my vote, and I want to kill the DSA now versus
No,
have to deal with it in the future.
Based. She has to earn our vote, buddy.
But this won't do it. It won't effectuate that.
It will. It will show that they are not
electable.
They are not electable. And they can say that the Democrats won't fall in line.
DSA types are amenable to reason. You think they're going to be like, oh yeah, remember when they lost to the Bernie race to Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton?
You agree that they're scary. Then you agree that they're scary, and then you agree.
I agree. Many of them are scary, but I'm just not worried that they're going to take over the party. And the ones, by the way, the candidates they promote, I just want to say the candidate they promote, typically they're palatable to me, especially compared to a MAGA Republican, like someone like AOC, someone like Ilhan Omar. Again, I don't agree with Ilhan.
AOC's endorsement, as we established, has been rescinded by the DSA. So clearly they are fucking nuts if she's not far left enough for them, right? But it's because she's a progressive. She's not a fucking commie, at least not outwardly. Maybe she's hiding her power level like Mom Donnie clearly is. But
Omar's on the Ukraine funding stuff. I think that's fucking cringe and bad or whatever. But I would take her any day of the week over a MAGA Republican. But just,
the DSA probably
right?
will start out as palatable. That's correct.
They're going to cope just like they coped about 2016, just like they coped about 2020. What do they say about those races, Moot?
And that's exactly
it was stolen from us.
And that's exactly
they don't take the L.
That's
they
why
don't
I don't want
take
to
the
deal
L,
with
Moot.
them, because if they start the snowball effect, it's going to be fucking over, man. So again, I just don't think we're just not going to agree, man.
What would it take for me to convince you that the threat isn't as you perceive? What was the kind of evidence that I would have to present to you?
I'll have to answer that at a later date because I'm not going to be able to come up with like a clear conclusion now. We can like schedule another talk and I can think about
you could be
that.
Like, oh
no, it's not unfalsifiable. I'm sure that there is some set of circumstances that you could convince me, but it's something that I would have to actually like sit down and think about versus give you a quick answer.
Even like a theoretical crazy science fiction explanation, like
I
were able to demonstrate to you.
I'm listening.
If I were able to demonstrate to you, like, read the minds of every Democratic voter, and we just like know that they have certain limits or whatever, and like just invent something that I could do to convince you. So some amount of evidence.
If you were able to give me a time machine and take me 10 years into the future, and I know exactly everybody's exact vote on every issue, and I see exactly how the party is acting and where we're at, then sure, you could convince me. But if you want like a real hypothetical, that's not going to be
in the fog of war. Yeah, in the fog of war now.
Sure.
Oh, okay. And another question. Mom Donnie, if you were eligible for the president over average MAGA Republican. Now, I know your prescription is vote for them in the president, right? I know that's your prescription. What would empower the DSA more than getting Mom Donnie elected as the president? So if you really think
Luckily,
that the DSA
he isn't
is
eligible
the
to be
scariest
president,
threat,
man.
okay, let's make it
I don't deal in crazy hypotheticals. Oh, El Sayed? I would rather El
my
Sayed
guy.
over a
Yeah.
MAGA Republican. Sure. He's not by the DSA.
Wouldn't that empower the thing that you say is the greater threat right now?
Yeah. I don't think that the DSA is the greatest threat in the world right now. I think MAGA is, but I think we can wiggle around with it inside of the House of Representatives. We can't wiggle around with it in the Senate, and I think that we can wiggle around with it in the Wisconsin governorship. The presidency isn't really something that I would want to wiggle around with.
Would you condemn someone who fails to endorse the Democratic candidate in the presidential or in the Senate?
Would I condemn someone who...
I don't know if I agree with Mouton on the presidential thing. Well, the problem is MAGA is so fucking bad that it's actually so hard to do the calculus. But like, I mean, Mamdani as he exists right now, obviously you would prefer him. But the question is, would he start doing crazy shit that he's not outwardly expressing right now, but seems to be there under the surface? That's kind of the question. Like, would Mamdani invade Israel? Would Mamdani, sell out U.S. secrets to the Chinese Communist Party? Would Mamdani, support Russia in their invasion against Ukraine? I mean, what is Mamdani's end goal? Is his end goal to destroy the United States in the way that, these foreign agents like Hassan Piker want to do? I don't know. It would really depend. Like, MAGA is so incompetent and stupid and dangerous and authoritarian that it's hard to make the calculus, but like, I don't know. It's a hard question. It's like an impossible question to answer almost.
Who doesn't endorse? What do you mean by endorse?
Yeah. Who doesn't follow your prescription?
I need
someone
to know,
who says,
what
you know what, I'm going to sit out the Senate race. I'm going to sit out the Senate race. I'm not going to support the candidate in the presidential if it's AOC, 55-45 AOC JD Vance. Would you condemn those like non-taking your prescriptions?
I would condemn someone who doesn't currently vote for the Democratic senator. I would condemn someone in 2028. Depending on how this election goes, I'll have to get back to you.
Wait, I thought it was concrete that your proposal included the president. Now it doesn't?
I have to get back to you. I don't know what's going to happen this year.
So it's just for the Senate right now?
It's for the Senate, and then if the House gets way closer, then yeah, we would be able to have a conversation about it.
It's for the House. No, but for the presidency, surely that is way more important. I mean, you talk about the Supreme Court. In terms of the Supreme Court, you need the presidency to even put up these judges. And if you get a DSA member as the president, they're going to give some fucking judges that are going to vote more blue. I mean, they're going to also need to be respected by the Academy and the other Democratic faithful. And I think that unlike the Republican Senate, the Democratic Senate is going to be more of a check on whatever excesses the
I would vote. I would currently vote for AOC over JD Vance.
Without question, right?
I would not have a question of it. No.
Yeah.
All right.
It seems so esoteric, man. It seems so particular.
Yes, it is, because I believe
I'm massively disagreeing. I'm massively,
and that's fair. We can disagree.
We're state offices that
disagree. Yeah.
And for state offices, that includes places like California, Texas, Florida, right? So if it's a DSA member, like up against a DeSantis, James Fishback,
I would have to get. We would have to like pull up an actual example, and I'd have to see like how the exact shit is going. I understand that I'm being like pedantic over
California, Hong in Florida, Hong in Texas. These are vital states where Democrats want to make further inroads, states where, this is going to affect what people's lives are like, to the extent that
If you try and run a socialist in Texas or in Florida, bro, that might do more long-term damage to these supposed inroads than not running at all. Again, this just kind of is putting on display the fact that Pisco doesn't really understand how much of a threat to the party the DSA presents, not just in like some sort of insurgent takeover, which obviously is their ultimate goal, outwardly stated ultimate goal, which is why they attack liberals all day, every day, by the way, but also in the perception of the Democratic Party and the damage that they are wreaking on the national perception of what the Democratic Party represents, which shouldn't be socialism. It isn't socialism, but these people are so loud and they have the messaging apparatus that they've hijacked the message to the point that there are people who believe that a Daria Lisa Chevalier represents the entire Democratic Party when they do not.
Completely banned abortion to the extent they have any gerrymandering whatsoever, right? Gerrymandering swings like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 seats.
Yeah,
I mean,
the DSA is
if you
pretty
care
bad
about
right now.
margins in the House, don't you think Hong would be more amenable to some sort of like cool gerrymander in Wisconsin than some fucking Republican? And that might affect 3, 4, 5 House seats.
I hear you. The
Maybe
DSA
less
is pretty
than
scary
Wisconsin,
for me.
obviously, but okay. All right, bro.
Yeah. I appreciate the chat. Are you going to come and canvass for El Sayed if he wins?
I'm not sure how I'll go to Michigan, but
What about Ohio?
I'll probably go to Maine.
Okay.
I might go to Sherrod Brown. These and the numbers are really good. This is one of the reasons I'm not like as scared as much. Like look where the Democrats in really competitive places in these Senate races, they're able to muster like great candidates who are moderate, candidates who are willing to work within the party.
I'm excited. We got to kill a few DSA members in like political sense, not like in real life, etc. Don't call for any violence. Yep, metaphorically. We had to get him out of there, and then yeah, we can be super excited about the Democratic Party moving forward. I hope we get better leaders, and I hope the leaders actually go on news and tell people what we're fighting for. One thing I am interested to hear your takes on quickly is one second. I've got some easy Democratic wins that I think that the Democratic Party should be pushing for. So one is federal holiday for elections. Are you for that?
Yeah, but I also think it's not a super critical thing.
Sure.
But yes, I am in favor of it.
My next one would be free or reduced government childcare federally.
I mean, I'm not really a policy wonk, but it sounds like something I'd be down with, and something that like a lot of major.
The reason I really like this is because I feel like the average Democrat fucking thing to get people like money back in their pocket is just like shit at the end of the year for their taxes, but nobody actually feels that.
Yeah, like tax credits and shit.
Yeah, whereas like people who are paying for childcare, etc., they see the $2,000 come out of their account every single month, and this would be a huge burden relief for them. That's why I'm pushing for that. The other one is voter ID tied to free passports for all.
Yeah, so I have no problem with like a voter ID law packaged with a national ID. The reason why people, I don't know, the country has been against national ID are like a lot of these bullshit McGovernment like cynicism bullshit, and like we've used this number, the social security number, to be like our national ID when it's very insecure, very dumb. And so I'm fine with voter ID paired with like sufficient.
It's unfortunate. I think that the number one thing that Democrats need to push as part of their agenda, I don't know, it's not like one of these like easy get voters things like free childcare or whatever, but it's educational reform. Clearly, the education and the media literacy in this country is catastrophically bad at this point. So I think that education reform, if we're actually looking to improve the country long term, I think that's the number one thing. I think it's more important than healthcare. I think it's more important than housing. I think it's more important than almost anything. Is probably more important than anything is educational reform. Getting people strong public schooling education across the country, some sort of measures to make that happen, and some sort of standardized curriculum that is stronger than what we currently have and is it goes more into depth about why liberalism is good and why fascism and communism are bad. That would be great. And also how to identify these things. And it should be the case, in my opinion, that a high school education should at least leave a person as educated as our current college graduates, probably. Maybe not in a specialized form, but in a general form. Like a high school education should probably, maybe you make people go to school until they're 20 or something, and you reform the curriculum so that it's stronger, and then you can get people, college level educated by the time they're 20 years old through public schooling that's free. That would be so fucking based. So because it's such a good idea, it's never going to happen, of course, because this is the United States. No, I'm just kidding. But that's what I think.
Access and yeah, I think that's
yeah,
dope. That's a great
someone brought up earlier, they were
This
like
is raising questions for me,
free
but yeah, go for it.
passports. So I was like, oh yeah, we just tied that into my voter ID thing. And then the last one is no AI in political advertisements.
Oh no, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
I'm a free speech guy. I'm a free speech guy. So unless you can find out some good legal argument for why,
Do you think you should be able to AI like
AI
Rico
doesn't
in
count?
like a dress saying something in a political advertisement?
I think that you could like restrict missing like what's the deal, like kind of deception in ads and like misinforming consumers. So that I'm okay with. But like you said, I thought you said like a wholesale ban on AI. I don't know if I would be. I think that seems like far too broad from a free.
Obviously, when he says this, he doesn't mean like AI generated like scenery or whatever, or like using AI to like animate a photo or something. What he's saying is AI that's being used to misinform people or make candidates opposite, like an attack ad that makes the opposition say something that they never said.
Free speech perspective, unless you can make a good argument that like for whatever reason I would have to be convinced by like a First Amendment argument on AI, because as it stands right now, I do think it's speech.
Okay, cool. I will
I'm
add
a rights
that to
guy first. I'm a liberal. Wait, no, this is raising questions for me. Wait.
Yeah.
So in terms of the policy platform that someone like Hong or Mamdani or someone like one of these figures, I don't think else I had you put in there. What is the thing that's like most scary to you?
I want to abolish fucking cops, etc.
But do you think that that's like a realistic scenario?
I think
like,
that it's crazy.
That's obviously, I would agree that that's a horrible position. Yeah, they have some fucking stupid theory bullshit explanation for what they mean by that.
Yeah, these people are
it's
cancer
never
and
gonna
they should
happen.
be
So
out of they shouldn't be in any big elected office.
Yeah, but like people like AOC have said shit like that before, and they've like, why is this a fear? They're not going to actually enact it, right? You're not scared of them actually enacting that, right?
I don't know what they do in the future,
but you're not afraid of them actualizing it. Are you like concerned that they're actually going to?
I'm afraid that they would take over the Democratic Party and then do wacky shit. Yeah, that's what I'm most scared of.
But not specifically getting rid of the police.
I don't know what they do, man. I have no idea. That's what they want to do. So yeah, I'm afraid of it. Yeah, I'm afraid that they're going to do what they say that they want to do. Yeah.
And same with prison. You think that they're actually?
I'm afraid that they're going to do what they say that they want to do. That's correct. That's their policy. I'm afraid of that. Yeah.
Okay.
I love it. Mouton is so fucking like he's very normie pilled in this conversation. I think Pisco's too like theoretical brained. Like, yeah, they say they want to do this crazy shit. I don't want them to do that. I mean, like, we've come close. Obviously, nobody's abolished the police wholesale, but we've seen situations like in California where they made theft up to $1,000, something that the police don't respond to, and you see the fucking results of that. So, I mean, they could do some crazy shit, man, that just does nothing but kneecap Democrats over and over and over because it gets tied to them because these insurgent pigs are running under the Democrat label. Yeah. And like, yeah, what they say they want to do is so fucking bad that I just do not want them to win. Yes, correct. And then obviously you have the long-term vision, which is like the single party state where political dissent is criminalized and whatnot. And, the man-made famines that are so classic to every socialist society for some reason, and the widespread poverty and all these things.
I'm not as afraid that they're going to be able to actualize that. Mamdani has said shit like this in the past too. He is like making inroads with the police. The power has a way of force, especially among Democrats, and unlike Trump, of forcing you to like build these bridges with other I don't know, constituencies and interest groups and key holders to power. If you're actually scared of the police and prison being abolished, maybe I would understand like why you're taking the tack that you're taking.
I'm scared that they're going to do what they say. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think it's a irrational fear, but hey.
And then it's irrational that the political organization is going to try to do what their platform says they want to do if they get into power. That's irrational? Really? Come on, Pisco. I think Mouton is a great person to have these conversations, honestly, because I think he's more in touch with how the normal person thinks about these issues, to be honest, than a lot of these, like, even including myself, like these terminally online fucking political psychos who have done nothing but think about politics for a decade or more.
Appreciate the conversation.
Appreciate the convo. Thank you so much.
Let me know if have any disagreement. Yeah.
Will do.
Cool.
Have a good one. Ciao.
Total Mouton victory, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we call total moot victory. All right. Based. I think Mouton fucking killed it in that conversation, I must say. I think he knocked it out of the fucking park. I love Mr. Mouton. And I love liberalism. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much. I'm making Morant. I'll be back real fucking soon with something for you. We'll see. That audio probably doubled on that like and sub. I'm seeing that now. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. Bye.